Has this ever happened to you? You are getting ready to sit down with your young daughters to watch Cocaine Bear with your tattooed real girlfriend of the week, and your lousy old ex-wife is harping on you to do their homework, stop drinking, and clean them. What a bitch. Well, with our new all-in-one checklist app, Good Daddy, being at timely custody hearings will be a thing of the past. Just enter what needs to be done, and we will remind you before your ex starts to enforce the orders.
Here via Zoom, and this is the date and time set for hearing in this matter. Ms. Weck had filed a motion. It was originally set for a week ago, but rescheduled for today. A motion regarding parenting time. Both raise your right hands. Do you both swear or affirm any testimony given this cause to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Yes.
All right. And ma'am, you filed this motion. What are you requesting today and why?
I'm requesting 4 different things. The first thing that is on the motion is that part of our order states that Jeremy shall not consume any alcohol during parenting time, nor for 24 hours prior to any parenting time, that he shall submit to a preliminary breathalyzer at my request, and at parenting time exchanges, and at any time I can request an alcohol testing at my own expense. On 4/27, he called the kids at 7 p.m., which was the night before he was supposed to have the girls. He was very intoxicated, and I requested via our parenting wizard, our family wizard, asking to use my right to breathalyze him. He told me that it was no longer in the order, that his attorney had told him that. I'm just asking the court to, kind of emphasize that that is still in the order, and that I can use my right to breathalyze him, and asking the court how it's enforced in terms of ensuring that he's not drinking 24 hours prior to having the girls. The next part of my parenting time order I'm asking to be changed is he's allowing the girls to watch inappropriate movies. My 4-year-old, she was 3 at that point, proceeded to tell our daycare provider and her friends at daycare that she had watched Cocaine Bear. The title alone indicates that it's pretty not for young eyes. So I went home and investigated a little, and Cocaine Bear is even worse than I had expected. I reached out to Jeremy to ask if they had watched it, and he replied that Madeline hadn't watched it. She'd only seen a piece of it and kept asking to watch it. When I picked the girls up that afternoon after school, I asked if they had watched it, and our 6-year-old proceeded to tell me that she had in fact watched it, and that she described a scene from the movie as being very scary. I'm asking that, we put in the order that appropriate content, whether it's movies, TV shows, music, or video games. I know we both don't do a lot of video games, but just be age appropriate. The next thing I want to talk about is introduction of multiple women, either indirectly or directly. My girls can describe women that they've never met. They know their professions, they know where they live, they know what they look like. There's also been multiple women that are in and out of their lives. Not that I don't want Jeremy to be dating. I hope that he moves on and finds happiness, but introduction of multiple women is getting a little excessive. At the end of March, they met someone named Tracy, and my 6-year-old described where she had tattoos, and before she even met her. And then not even 2 weeks later, another woman was in the house that Wednesday named JoJo, and was making them dinner. So within a short time frame, they've met multiple women. And then via the parenting time adder for our family wizard, Jeremy let me know that the girls had spent, 16 hours with this woman named JoJo, and that he was now moving her into the house. I find that very, very fast, and my girls had not spent enough time to know if this woman would be a good role model. So I'm asking that the court, put something in writing that unrelated overnight guests should not be, or any unrelated guests should not be staying overnight for a certain period of time, until we know that the relationship is long-term. The next thing is Jeremy's not doing their homework. When they go to their house or his house on the weekends, they'll come to me on Sunday night, and I'm automatically get into like their bedtime routine. We do baths and get ready for bed. And then the next morning, my 6-year-old says to me, "Oh, I didn't do my homework." So when I reach out to Jeremy, he says, "Well, I asked them and they said no." Just kind of emphasize like we should be doing our homework. Whoever has the children directly after school. I understand that we want to teach them accountability, but we also need to be accountable as parents. So just to ensure that their homework is done. The next one is proper hygiene and return of clothing. Jeremy gets them Wednesday nights for dinner, and then he'll get them over the weekend. So they're coming directly to him most of the time from either daycare or school. When he returns them, especially on Wednesday nights, there's got food on their face, their hair is a mess. One night in particular, my 4-year-old arrived with burrs in her hair, like burdock, those sticky things that stick to everything. It was in a ball, and it took me 45 minutes of her screaming and using conditioner to get it out of her hair. Just some, proper hygiene, returning to me. And then return of clothing. I'll send them with certain clothing, and they'll come back with improper size clothing or not my clothing at all. And I send them with nice clothing. One instance, we were at basketball, and I sent her with our 4-year-old with a brand new winter coat. And she came back with a size 24 month too small coat. I don't know why, but I had to ask for it back. And then extracurricular activities. I like my girls to be in as many activities as is logistically possible. I think it creates well-rounded children. But every extracurricular activity that they want to be involved in, I evaluate, is it going to affect any parenting time on his? Is it going to affect, the cost? What is the cost? Is it something I know that they'll want to do long-term, or is it this is just for fun? And then I run that by Jeremy. Most of the time he agrees to it. He's even agreed to, in the Parenting Time app, to pay for part of it. And then I cover the cost of it. When I ask him if he's going to cover the cost of it, he'll say, "That's what my child support is for." Well, that would be great. But right now there's no child support being paid. So I'm asking that we either enforce that we're paying child support or ask the court to, that he pays for 50% of these extracurricular activities, because I want my kids to be involved, but I shouldn't be carrying the financial burden if I'm not getting one or the other.
All right. Sir, what's your response to each? Well, let's start in order. Well, let's do it this way. Ma'am, what order are you relying on when you say that Mr. Shelton shall not consume alcohol during or 24 hours prior to parenting time, and shall submit to breathalyzer test prior to parenting time or at any time that you direct?
That is from our original order from 2020. I believe the opinion from the judge came in March, and then it was officially signed by the judge and our attorneys in May of 2020.
And that's never been modified or vacated or anything like that?
No, it has not.
All right. Sir, what's your response to the motion as it relates to that issue alone at this point?
That issue there, I was not intoxicated. Mrs. Wack asked me to go out to my truck and blow. I had left my house with my girlfriend. Mrs. Wack asked me to go back to my truck and proceed to blow into my thing. I said, we had left. She said, well, then you're going to have to provide me with an address or go to a cop shop and blow for somebody or tell me where I can send an officer. We were on our way. My girlfriend lives in Hart. Well, she has a cabin in Hart. So I told her, I said, we sent her an address of where we were at. And I told her if she wanted to send an officer, more than happy to send an officer. But it also says it's at her expense. I don't know where it's my expense where I have to run around all over God's creation trying to find some place to appease her. It's kind of getting ridiculous in a sense where she's searching for so many things for me to have to try to jump through all these hoops for her.
All right, but does the order allow it?
Does it allows her to, yes, at her expense.
Okay.
She has it at parenting time, but prior to pickup or drop off or at her expense, she could ask for it and she could come to my house and ask me to blow into it at her time.
All right. So ma'am, when did this incident that you referred to, what was the date of that incident?
April 27th. I just want to also note that.
Hold on, just answer the questions at this point. April 27th, 2023, at what time?
It was just after 7 p.m. He had called at 7 p.m. and he told me at 7:10 that he was not home.
All right, and the kids were with him at that time?
They were with me. It was 24 hours prior to his parenting time.
So he was supposed to start the next day?
Yeah, at 3 o'clock. Well, he typically picks Madeline up at 7:45 a.m. So it would have been 12 hours prior, just over 12 hours.
No, I told you I couldn't pick Maddie up that morning because I wasn't going to be there in time.
You let me know that the day of at 6:17 on the 28th, you let me know at 6 o'clock in the morning that you weren't going to make it. On the 27th, you did not indicate that at all.
Well, I think I did when we were talking on the phone or FaceTiming, but okay.
Well, I think you both agree that that language is still in the order. Ms. Weck just wanted that emphasized. So whatever the order says regarding that, if it's not been vacated or changed, you got to comply with it.
But I don't see where it's at her expense. So I'm supposed to run and go to a cop shop at that point?
I don't know if they'll charge you. How do you know if they're going to charge you or not?
Huh?
Do they charge you to, or can you even just walk into a police station and say, I'm going to go into a...
Charge you $4 every time. I used to have to do it when I went through sobriety court. Mrs.
No, neither of you have asked to change that at this time, so she just wants it emphasized. So whatever the order says, the two of you have to comply with it. Sir, what about this issue with your young children watching a rated R movie?
Sir, and I had this conversation with Mrs. Wack. My kids did not watch it. My brother, and I got my nephew here if you want to swear him in, because he was
right here from you right now.
Okay. My nephew and my brother were here watching it. My kids and I were all outside playing basketball, and my youngest one and my second oldest one, they don't play basketball that much. My oldest daughter had her friend over, and we were playing basketball. They kept coming in. Every time they came in, they would pause the movie, but they would catch pieces of it. And they would pause the movie and tell them, no, you guys can't be watching. And they'd wait till they left, and then they would turn it back on and start watching. I have, to this day, I've never seen the movie. I've heard it was dumb. Pieces that I did see of it, it was very inappropriate for my kids, and I would never let them watch that. I won't let my kids watch inappropriate shows on TV. Okay. When they're watching, they got Google Play, and they got all the movies and kid shows, and everything is all set up for them. And they know.
That's all right. That's what I wanted to hear. So you're not opposed to the entry of an order stating that your kids won't watch movies, TV shows, listen to music, or play video games that is rated for a level above their age?
I'm fine with that.
Okay, good. How about the issue that Ms. Weck brought up about you introducing the children to multiple women who are significant others?
Nope, that is far, far from false. My girls have met two women. One, and at this point here, and I want to emphasize this too, Mrs. Weck, the minute she finds out, and I got letters here written from these women, Mrs. Weck will contact them and pretty much harass them in a sense, saying that, well, I'm their biological mother. I am the guardian. I'm the co-parent. I'm the only parent that has anything to. I'm getting frustrated. She's the. Man. It all falls on her. She makes all the choices, everything that goes down with the kids. She's their primary parent. Sorry. And that she needs to know them. She needs to meet them. At this point, sir, yes, these two women, one that is living with me, are involved in my life, but I'm not saying they're going to be there forever. And getting them to meet my kids to make sure there's a kind of a bond with them to see if they're going to work with my kids. If they're not going to be good with my kids, they're gone. I'm not going to be with somebody who can't be with my kids. The first person.
You got to understand though, kids get attached relatively quickly, and if the two of you decide not to continue your relationship, then the kids have gotten attached to someone, and then all of a sudden she's out of the picture. You know, they feel a sense of loss. So I'm not going to put anything in the order that prohibits. You know, sometimes those provisions are put in orders when divorces are pending or for short periods of time thereafter. But this is a 4-year-old. Well, it's not even a divorce. This is a 4-year-old case anyway, and so the two of you presumably have been apart for 4 years or more. And the Court of Appeals. There's a case, and I read it years ago, and I can't remember the site right now, but the Court of Appeals basically said that both parents have the duty, the absolute duty, to protect their children from abuse or neglect during time that the children are in their care. And if exposing them to a person brings that into question because of that person's propensities for, I don't know, violence or drug abuse or criminality or things like that, then that's to be scrutinized by the court. But the court's not to really scrutinize parents and their romantic relationships absent any of those other things. So I'll just caution you that kids get attached quickly, and you need to be cognizant of that when you're introducing them to people. But I'm not going to put language in a 4-year-old in an order in a 4-year-old case prohibiting you from having the kids around your significant others. Do you have a problem with making sure that the homework is done when the kids are in your care after school?
Sir, I get the girls after school, and I grab them, and I ask them for their homework. I'll look at their bags. Most of the time, they do get their homework done. Mrs. Weck is bringing up a very few issues that actually have been brought up. I have them for 4 hours. By the time they get here from school, I got them until 7 o'clock. I'm enjoying almost every second that I have with my kids at this moment in time. And yes, homework is important, and I agree. But at 7 o'clock, there's still a little bit of time for her to actually look at it if it needs to be. I'm not opposed to helping them with their homework or making it get it done. It's just that when they get here, they're excited to be on the trampoline and be with me and have fun and do the things that they didn't get to see me for over a week. So in some cases, for over a week.
Are we just talking Wednesdays for this issue?
Yes, that's what she's talking about are on Wednesdays.
Okay.
On Sunday, they got time to look through their books, and I have. There is not any time. Yes, there was. One time, my daughter missed homework. I asked them if they had homework, and they said no. Yes, Mrs. Weck is right. I should have probably looked at it, but in this case, I'm enjoying my time, the very little minimal time I have with my kids. So Mrs. Weck does have them pretty much all the time. So I don't understand how maybe missing a homework day here or there is going to be the end of the world, or we got to put it into some kind of writing that if the homework's not done, because she'll have, if the kids do it again, we'll be back in court tomorrow.
Well, I agree with you there. It shouldn't have to be in writing. The two of you should be able to figure these issues out. But if you can't, the court has to get involved. And, you know, I don't want you to sit here and think that you only get to be the fun parent and she's got to do all the homework. You know, you should have some responsibility in that. But I'm also cognizant of the fact that you do have less time and you want to enjoy the time you have. And, you know, maybe homework is enjoyable, maybe it's not. But I think for certain, if you've got them for a full weekend, you know, you should set some time aside during that weekend to get the homework done so they're not coming home on a Sunday night having to get that done. On a Wednesday, if you got them for 3 or 4 hours, if it's you know, a big thing that has to be done, you should probably be working on it. If it's something that can be done relatively quickly once they get home, then maybe it's not that big a deal. It's kind of, you know, it's kind of hard to legislate that or put an order in effect because it's going to be different. If it's you know, one sheet of paper, identify these 8 colors, and then you're done. You know, you should be able to get that done. But if it's something like a book report, then that takes a little more time.
I do. I do these things. And me and Mrs. Weck would actually just take some of the time instead of focusing and putting all this stuff into court and take a little bit of time and actually communicate with me and actually take a little bit of what we're talking about here. I'm not going to be perfect. I'm not making all the right decisions at every moment in time, but every decision I'm making, I'm doing it for the best of my kids. I'm there for my kids. I want them to be happy. I don't want them to be worrying about, there's one incident, Mrs. Weck told me that I needed to blow into my pickup truck. And I said, no, that order was over prior to parenting time. She said, no, it wasn't. I said, yes, it was. And it actually was. Mrs. Weck then proceeded to say, well, when are you going to pay child support? And she's gone FaceTime with me with my kids in the back. And she said, I said, I'm trying to get my best to get child support. And sir, I am still to this moment right now, I'm closing possibly on Tuesday. I will have I remortgaged my home. I'm getting caught up on everything. I just got a few more tax papers I got to figure out and I'm closing. But Mrs. Weck then proceeded to tell me that I said, you know, they're going to put me in jail for this if you keep pushing this the way you are. And she goes, yes, I know. And I would love it. My kids were right there and they heard it. They started crying, asking me, and I FaceTimed her right back and she wouldn't answer. I said, look what you did. My kids are crying because now mommy's putting daddy in jail. And that's the stuff that she does. She does it all the time. She's going to use this as a tool every single time. These items that she is bringing up is something that 2 parents should be able to sit down, talk about, and resolve them without doing it like this.
I agree. So what about, she has said the kids come back, a lot of times they're filthy and dirty. Is that?
No, sir. My kids on Wednesdays, we eat dinner. Okay, so I get them home at 4 o'clock by the time they get home. We get home at 4. I start dinner. They go outside and start playing. Mrs. Weck knows my pasture by the creek is full of these burdocks. But on that particular day that she's bringing up, we all went for a walk looking for rocks. And we lost track of time. Nobody had a phone. We lost track of time, so I was rushing to get back to the house because I knew it was getting close to having, if I'm late, Mrs. Weck's going to have it wrote down and she's going to make sure that I'm in the court for it. So I rushed back up to the truck and I realized, well, we had a few more minutes, but we jumped in, we were all in the truck anyway, and I took off down to the McDonald's to meet with them. Prior to getting my daughter out, I noticed she had a big thing, a wad of burdocks. I said, I'm sorry. I didn't notice it. We were rushing into the vehicle, and I didn't see them. Most of the days that Maddie comes here in the mornings, she takes at least 1 or 2 baths while she's here because she just loves to take baths. And my kids is my oldest daughter, my 8-year-old, or my going to be 9-year-old, is she takes showers almost every time she comes here, 2 or 3 times a day. And they swip out clothes like I have more laundry than anything when those girls are here because they switch clothes out constantly. So when we're eating dinner at 5, 6 o'clock, trying to get homework done, trying to actually have a little bit of parenting time with my kids. Yeah, they might come with a little bit of ketchup on their face because they had their hamburger and I rushed them into the vehicle. it happens. Mrs. Weck has delivered me the kids in pajamas. She's actually taken them to daycare in pajamas and dropped them off in pajamas and left them in pajamas all day long.
All right, what about the extracurricular activities?
Extracurricular activities. Oh, sir, I told her I would happy to do these things. At this moment in time, her asking me to pay for something, I'm struggling. And I've actually Snapchat or sent Mrs. Weck a picture of my bank account where it's actually negative in there when she's asking for this money. I'm actually $47 negative in my checking account. And she's asking for money.
All right. At this time, I've heard both sides. These aren't, well, anyway, the alcohol, there isn't really a request to change anything in the order as far as that's concerned. So I'll just emphasize to the parties they have to follow the language that's in the most current order as it relates to the breathalyzer and the being intoxicated or consuming alcohol prior to parenting time. The parties are both in agreement that the kids won't watch any movies or TV shows or play any video games or listen to any music that's rated for an age above their age. So I'll put that language in the order. The significant others, I'm not going to prohibit or restrict that. I'm just cautioning both parents that kids get attached quickly to the new boyfriend or the new girlfriend or whatever, and you need to be cognizant of that when you're introducing them to your kids. The homework, again, like I said, it's hard because homework comes in many different shapes and sizes, and there should be some responsibility on both parents to make sure that the homework is done. It shouldn't be all on mom to do it when the kids come home at 7 or 8 o'clock, because I'm assuming they have to get to bed shortly thereafter. So certainly on the weekends, the homework needs to be addressed in Dad's house. The Wednesdays, I guess it should at least be looked at if it's going to take an amount of time that would keep the kids up late when they get home. Probably need to get some or most of it done. Kids get dirty. They're going to have to bathe. I'm not really going to take any action on that. The clothing, each of you should return the clothing to the other parent at the end of your parenting time. That the people get possessive over the clothes they buy their kids. So if mom sends the kids in some clothes, you got to make sure, sir, that she gets those clothes back. Likewise, if the kids come to your house, ma'am, with clothes that dad has provided, you need to make sure he gets them back.
Actually, most times shoes that I've actually sent there and the dogs have chewed up, and I get back, I go buy new shoes. Her dogs chew up all the shoes. I bought brand new boots for my kids, and they go there, snow boots, they were chewed up within days. Mrs. Weck doesn't return any of the items that my kids go there with. I just like to emphasize that she's got to do the same. She's actually still has a phone of mine that she took from one of my kids, and she's also got an internet box that she took from my house. These are items that Mrs. Weck has not returned that I've asked for numerous times.
All right. So, and then we're left with the issue of the extracurriculars. It doesn't sound like either of you are opposed to the kids being signed up for stuff. It's more how it's going to be paid for. And, when I first look at it, Mr. Shelton has a pretty significant support obligation, and that should be able to be utilized to cover the sign-up fees and things like that for a couple extracurricular activities. However, so you're not paying that every month in the ordered amount, so that makes it difficult for her to count on it to be able to utilize it to use for sign-up fees and things like that. So I guess I'm kind of leaning her way on that if you're not paying the support on time when it's ordered, this wasn't specifically about support, but you got a point that if she's not getting the money that you're ordered to pay or not getting all of it, then it makes it hard for her to be able to sign the kids up for things. And I appreciate that she says that she tries to do it so that it won't materially affect your parenting time, even though you guys live pretty close together and you can certainly go to all the stuff, practices games and coach the teams and do whatever you want to do if the kids are signed up.
I agree. But the thing is, sir, Mrs. Weck, that this my child support payment came at the worst time it could possibly ever come. I was pretty close to being paid up to the day that this was signed, and then it almost doubled from the time that what I was paying. I've been struggling myself to get these things done. I've communicated this with Mrs. Weck. I am doing my best to get my work. My work is not the busiest right now. Mrs. Weck knows this from the 10 years we were together. She knows that I'm not busy this time of the year, and my summertime and fall are my best times where I've actually make my income. So her asking me for all these things, she knows when my money starts coming in. She's did my books for 10 years. She knows that I'm slow this time of the year. So her emphasizing all this and pointing all this out. Oh, and I'd like to also note that Mrs. Weck also bashed me on Facebook.
I don't care about that. People write stuff on Facebook all the time. All right, as far as the extracurriculars goes, Mom will cover the sign up and things that go along with signing the kids up. If there are excessive equipment costs or costs for gear and things like that, that'll be split 50-50. All right, is there anything else for today?
I just got to ask one more question. So the consuming of alcohol 24 now, I don't understand, I guess, the way it's worded. Do I have to drop whatever I'm doing, go find a cop, or go find a place to do whenever Mrs. Weck asks me to do this?
So unfortunately, because this is a 4-year-old case, when they pull my files, they pulled file number 2. So file number 1 is probably sitting somewhere. It's probably a few inches thick, and they create a second file when the first file folder fills up. They only pull the most recent one for me, so I don't have that language in front of me. If one of you has it and you can read it to me, I can give you my assessment.
I can read it here. The defendant shall not consume alcohol during parenting time nor for 24 hours prior to parenting time. Defendant shall submit to a preliminary breathalyzer test at the plaintiff's request at parenting time exchanges, and plaintiffs may at any time request an alcohol test at her own expense.
And that's the total language of the paragraph?
Yes, sir. Mrs. Weck, I'm sure has it.
So I guess that gives her the right to request it any time, but it would have to be somehow, the payment for that would have to be managed by her prior to your requirement to then test. Because if it clearly states that it's at her expense, then that doesn't say anything about you fronting the cost and her reimbursing you. She has to pay for it, have it set up, and then you, I guess, got to be there.
Okay.
At any time is pretty wide open. I'm just giving you my assessment of a prior order. So.
Yep.
All right. Okay. We should be all set. You'll get an order in the mail with the things that we've outlined for today. All right.
With our patent pending software, we guarantee you will be Father of the Year. No more pesky pasta on their face, and she will never find out about that Red Bull and vodka you snuck in right before you played truth or dare with that new girl you met on Tinder. So download the free app today and inquire about our premium services and never be in violation of your court orders again. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Time Served. Bye-bye now.